I'm hoping that what I'm planning on talking about, like my experience with a narcissist parent, I'm hoping it's going to resonate with some people, and I'm hoping that maybe, just maybe, it might help somebody. I mean, I doubt it. There's plenty out there, you know. H.G. Tudor's he's become quite relevant at the moment. I'm not saying he wasn't before. I'm just saying because of Wifey and the Idiot Boy, he's become quite known to a lot of people, including me. And I actually get what he says when he talks about the unaware narcissist, because I think that's what my mother was. At the very least, she was deep in denial. She denied everything. Nothing was ever her fault, ever. It was always somebody else. And she just couldn't take responsibility for... I mean, she took responsibility in as much as she worked. You know, she was a hard worker, but anything else, no, she was the victim. Thank you very much. And I genuinely believe she was not aware. I know that she knew on one level because she was in and out of nut houses when I was a kid, which meant that I got shit from pillar to post to people who really didn't want to look after me, but they were doing it because they were her friends. And that's not a nice feeling either. Knowing that you're not wanted, you know. So anyway, she was having all these nervous breakdowns and obviously getting a hell of a lot of fuel through that. But she was suffering as well because she didn't know what she was. And I know that they told her that she had personality disorders because I saw it in her notes when she died. But of course she would have never admitted that, not in a million years. No way. And I know, and there's this other YouTuber, Paula M, who really doesn't agree with H.G. Tudor that Wifey doesn't know what she's doing. But I can see it. I really, really can. Because she's saying, well, she does all these nasty things to people and she's very vengeful. Yeah, she is. Because every single thing that happens to her that isn't of overflowing with adoration is an insult and an offence. And I know this because my mother took offence at the slightest thing, and half the time it wasn't even either aimed at her or offensive, but she chose to be offended, okay? And that turned her quite unpleasant. So I absolutely get that Markle thinks that she's just behaving appropriately in response because she's a reactor. My mother was a reactor, you know. So although the behaviour is unpleasant and quite vicious and disgusting, she won't see it like that. She just won't. And I totally get what H.G. Tudor says. I also get the impression that he finds empaths something of a tiresome, you know, a little bit tiresome because he's a narc, isn't he? I think I personally was predisposed as a person to be an empath because I think it was either that or be a narc. And I know I had narc tendencies when I was growing up, a teenager, into my 20s, definitely. I was quite fucked up, actually. But I grew out of it, you know, as I learned. But a true narc will never grow out of it because they don't want to learn, because there's nothing wrong with them. It's you. You're the person there's something wrong with. So, yeah, I became a tiresome empath. And in a way, it helped me survive because my mother told me all about her own childhood experiences and they weren't good, you know. The woman was damaged, you know, before the age of 7. Several things had happened to her that would damage anybody, you know. And I suppose H.G. Tudor also says narcissism is a defence mechanism, and I completely get that, you know. I've met so many that you can tell it's a defence mechanism. There's no getting around it. There's no talking to them, nothing. It is a very, very deep, ingrained from childhood defence. Unfortunately, although they can be quite nice, charming people and you can have a laugh with them and all the rest of it, when you get past a certain point, the narc is sitting there, you know, and they're not going to go away and they're never going to change. It's just not going to happen. I'm sure that they can take the edge off it through experience, because my mother was in the medical profession all her life, and ironically she chose to go into health visiting, which involved children, and you know, she didn't enjoy being a mother. She didn't like me. She actually told me I was lucky I was a girl, because if I'd have been a boy, she'd have sent me back, which I thought at the time, well, fuck me, I wish I was a boy. That's how bad it was, you know. I said to her once, was I adopted? And she said, no, why? And I couldn't tell her, because I thought, well, surely my real mum would actually love me, you know. So maybe I was adopted out to a person who didn't love me. But obviously I couldn't tell her that, you know. I couldn't have articulated it, never mind take the consequences. So yeah, she went and she ended up having a lot of training, and it took the edge off her narcissism. It was there, ingrained deep, but I think she learned a lot over the years that, you know, either she got very, very good at pretending, or she really did work on herself. I know she was in counselling because of various things. But yeah. I mean, by the time my kids were growing up, she'd got better, but I could see it come out with them, you know. But I've actually said, please don't treat my kids like that. Please don't be nasty to my children. You know, I went through it. I don't want you to do it to them. I didn't say that because, my God, can you imagine? Well, you know, you probably can't. But anyway, yeah, it hurt me to see her doing it to them. It really did. But they had a totally different take. What happened was, it used to make them laugh. And I was saying, we had a conversation about it the other day. I said, yeah, nervous laughter, yeah? And they went, no, it's just really funny. And I thought, wow, that's a coping mechanism, I don't know, you know. But then they didn't have it nearly as rough as I did, so it was very diluted. So yeah, anyway, I know that my father was a narc as well. He was completely fucked up. His mother was very strange, sort of in love with him, you know. Spoiled him, stupid, but one of those mothers who takes pride in the fact that her child goes out and plays and comes back clean, okay? So you can imagine the kind of things he would have done to make sure he came back clean, you know. That kind of pressure on a 5 or 6 year old. I'm not allowed to get dirty because my mother's so proud of me being clean, you know. It's those kinds of things that affect you. You know, my mother, oh God, I always say, when I turned 13, she rebelled. When I was a teenager, my mother rebelled because I started to show character traits of my very own, and that was not acceptable, you know. And a lot of it was coming from herself. Like, in the 70s, you know, the standard thing was you buy a pair of jeans, you take them in as tight as possible, down to the knee, then you've got a flare, or you sit in a bath of cold water, or you do both, you know, to get these jeans to fit perfectly. Every single time, she'd rip it out. I had to wear really loose baggy jeans, and the other shameful thing she made me do was wear crimpling trousers with a seam down the front. Age 13, 14. My grandmother wore those. They were... that's the kind of thing that damages you. You know, you go to a school thing where you don't have to wear a uniform and all you've got is crimpling trousers. You're not allowed to wear modern, trendy clothes because your mother is too much of a bitch to allow it, because it reflects upon her. And any sign of, you know, my growing sexuality was stamped on because she was ashamed of her own. You know, it boils down to shame, defence, anger, punishment, except it's all projected, you know. I don't know if this is making any sense. It makes perfect sense to me. But this is after years of thinking about it, working it out, reading about it, you know. They get so angry about things, you know. I mean, Christ, I bought a little badge once of Sitting Bull. That got chucked, you know. It just disappeared. You know, this would happen to me all the time. I wasn't allowed to develop because she stamped all over it, you know, because she was frightened. She was coming from a place of fear. She could not control what I was becoming, which was a normal teenager as much as possible. But she couldn't control that. And that is a very scary place for a narcissist to be, out of control.